The period from 1929 to 1934 was crucial in Adolf Hitler's rise to power, a time when the economic turmoil caused by the Great Depression and the increasing appeal of extremist political parties, including Hitler's Nazi Party, reshaped Germany's political landscape. The Wall Street crash of 1929, a catastrophic collapse of stock prices in the United States, had profound and far-reaching effects on the global economy, including Germany, which was already grappling with the lingering impacts of World War I and the reparations imposed by the Treaty of Versailles. Before the crash, Germany had begun to experience a period of economic recovery under the Weimar Republic, largely thanks to American loans provided through the Dawes Plan. These loans stabilized the German economy, allowing for a resurgence in industry and employment. However, when the Wall Street crash occurred in October 1929, it triggered a global financial crisis that abruptly ended this fragile recovery. American banks, themselves in crisis, called in the loans that had been propping up the German economy, leading to a severe financial crisis in Germany. The sudden withdrawal of American capital caused a cascade of economic failures. Banks collapsed, businesses went bankrupt, and millions of workers were thrown out of their jobs. Unemployment in Germany skyrocketed as a result, with figures soaring from around 1.3 million in 1929 to over 6 million by 1932. The Weimar government, already weakened by political infighting and public dissatisfaction, struggled to respond effectively to the crisis. Their measures, which included cuts to social services and attempts at austerity, only deepened the public's despair and resentment. The middle class, who had previously been the backbone of the Weimar Republic, saw their savings wiped out and their livelihoods threatened. Farmers and small business owners were equally devastated, as the economic collapse destroyed both domestic demand and international trade. In this atmosphere of economic despair and political instability, extremist political parties began to gain significant traction. The Nazis, led by Adolf Hitler, capitalized on the widespread discontent by promising to restore Germany's former glory, revive the economy, and provide jobs. Their message resonated deeply with a population that was increasingly disillusioned with the democratic processes of the Weimar Republic, which seemed unable to cope with the economic crisis. Hitler's rhetoric, which blamed the Weimar government, communists, and Jews for Germany's problems, found a receptive audience among those looking for scapegoats in a time of national crisis. The Nazi Party's electoral fortunes dramatically improved as the Depression worsened. In the 1928 Reichstag elections, the Nazis had been a marginal force, securing only 2.6% of the vote. However, by the July 1932 elections, they had become the largest party in the Reichstag, winning 37.3% of the vote and 230 seats. This surge in popularity was not limited to the Nazis. Other extremist groups, particularly the communists, also saw an increase in support, as voters turned away from moderate parties that were associated with the failures of the Weimar Republic. The political landscape became increasingly polarized, with the moderate center collapsing under the weight of growing radicalism on both the left and the right. The Nazis' rise was fueled not only by their economic promises, but also by their effective use of propaganda, violent intimidation by paramilitary groups like the SA, Sturmabteilung, and Hitler's charismatic leadership. The political elite, believing they could control Hitler, eventually invited him into power, leading to his appointment as Chancellor in January 1933. Once in power, Hitler quickly moved to consolidate his position, using the Reichstag fire in February 1933 as a pretext to push through the Reichstag Fire Decree, which suspended civil liberties and allowed for the arrest of political opponents, particularly communists. This was followed by the Enabling Act in March 1933, which gave Hitler dictatorial powers and marked the effective end of the Weimar Republic and the beginning of the Nazi dictatorship. In summary, the Great Depression, triggered by the Wall Street crash, brought an end to Germany's brief period of economic recovery and plunged the nation into a deep crisis. This economic collapse led to massive unemployment and widespread suffering, which in turn fueled the rise of extremist parties like the Nazis. As these parties gained popularity, the democratic foundations of the Weimar Republic were undermined, paving the way for Hitler's ascent to power and the eventual establishment of his totalitarian regime.